Welcome back, friends. In our previous operating system concepts, we have learned about various services provided by the operating systems like the process management, the memory management, security, protection, etc. Now, today we are going to learn about the distributed systems, the computing environments, and also, if time permits, we are going to learn about various special systems like the handheld systems, etc. Let us move on to the distributed systems. So, what do you mean by distributed system? A distributed system is a collection of physically separate, possibly heterogeneous computer systems. So, these systems are being networked to provide data and resources to the users who are working on them. So what do you mean by distributed system? So assume you have a different computers or various computers which are located at different locations scattered over the earth, and I say that using the internet or using any other kind of networking, so we made all the systems come into a group, and these systems are working in such a way that they try to work with the heterogeneous data. At the same time, they try to work with independently. Still they have a logical group, or they are working in a logical group. So physically they might be located at different locations, but still, since they came or they are working as a team or a group, so you can say that the whole system is a distributed system. So let us try to understand the basic definition again. What is the basic definition? A distributed system is a collection of physically separate. That means the systems are not physically near, they are separated. So a distributed system is a collection of physically separate and possibly heterogeneous. So all these systems are of not the same kind. One might be a supercomputer, or one might be a workstation, one might be a desktop computer, assume like that. So all these have different processing speeds and different mechanisms, right? At the same time, so you can say that the distributed systems are physically separate. I mean, it's a collection of systems which are physically separate, and possibly they might work with the heterogeneous data. And so how they're going to be connected? Yeah, using some kind of network, these systems are being interconnected. What is the main purpose for them? The main purpose for them is to provide the users with access to various resources. That's the main purpose. So even though these systems are being located at different locations, the main purpose is they form as a group and they try to serve the user with the data and the resources. So what does it mean? For example, if you have a resource which is a shared resource, assume like that. I have a resource and I say that there is a shared resource. So what happens? If you have the shared resource, automatically it is going to be increasing the computation speed, functionality, data availability, and reliability. That is the basic advantage of distributed systems. What does that mean? So, what does it mean? For example, you have a shared work or a shared resource. Instead of purchasing different resources, if you have only one resource, for example, I say there is a server, assume like that. There is a server which can do huge computation. There is a server which can do huge computation. Okay, right. And if all the systems which are located in the distributed system, or if all the systems which are located in the group remotely can take the services of that server, then you can achieve increased computation, you can achieve good functionality, data availability, and reliability. Instead of purchasing various data servers, why don't you go for minimal amount of data servers, kept them available to the systems, and make use of that. This is the basic advantage of distributed system. See, the same thing happens with the Google, Yahoo, etc. You've been accessing the Google data, right? Google has kept different servers at different locations. Okay, then what happens? Okay, your request will be redirected to one server, and you don't know where the server is, but the server is trying to provide the data. At the same time, server is trying to help your request. So this is the basic concept or basic underlying concept with the distributed systems. So what is the basic property here? Here the resources are shared. Okay, so what is the advantage of sharing a resource? Right, if you have a resource which is shared, then it increases the computation speed, functionality, data availability, and reliability. So these are the basic advantages if you try to put a resource as a shared resource, and this is the basic property of the distributed system. See, distributed system is also called as, we have already previously discussed, but let me try to remind you, the loosely coupled system. The loosely coupled system is also called as the distributed system. It's very simple. The name itself is having the distributed. So everything has been distributed at different locations, and you're simply accessing them whenever they are needed. That is the basic advantage. Now we will put a question, how this distributedness can be achieved. It's very simple. You have a separate software or separate operating systems that can support this distributed property. So a traditional operating system will not support that, but anyway, distributed systems have their own operating system. So some operating systems, something like they generalize network access in the form of file access. See what happens with the details of networking contained in the networking device drivers. Let us try to know some simple terminology regarding the distributed system. The first terminology is a network. So what do you mean by network? So I can say that a network, in simple terms, I can say that a network is a communication path between two or more systems. That's it. So you have two or more systems, whether it is a phone, it is a computer, desktop, a workstation, or any supercomputer, anything. So if you have two or more devices, and assume that if you try to interconnect them, then call it as a network. Correct or not? Right. So distributed systems depend on networking. So if you don't have network, assume there is no distributed system. The basic requirement for the distributed systems is that all the systems should be connected through a network. If there is no network, then you cannot create a distributed system. And these networks vary or differentiate with the protocols they work with. See, these networks have different protocols, and one system may work with one protocol, another system may work with another protocol. They have their own mechanisms. Protocol means set of rules for working, right? So assume that all these systems, even though they work in the network, these systems work, or these networks will have different protocols or different set of rules to work with. And my dear friends, TCP/IP, TCP/IP. So TCP/IP is the most common network protocol. You have to remember this point. Okay, TCP/IP is the most common network protocol. We'll try to understand more about this in the next sections, but anyway, try to remember that TCP/IP is the one of the most common network protocol. And TCP/IP means transmission control program or protocol, and internet protocol. The name itself is that. So transmission and control protocol / means it is also having an internet protocol. This is the core protocols in that networking layer, right? Again, we have three kinds of networks. The first network is the local area network. Means if you have constructed a network mean an interconnection between the systems, and which are confined within a small meters, probably confined within a building or within a campus, then call it as a local area network. And if your network is confined within a particular city or area, then you call it as a metropolitan area network. This is second kind. And third kind is if the network is spread or distributed across a vast area or over the globe, then call it as the wide area network. So that means the internet, capital I, the internet right now we are using is an example for the wide area network. And the network or the computer network which you have in your college lab or in your office campus, then call it as the local area network. And the broadband network which is provided for you in your city, that is an example for the metropolitan area network, also call it as the MAN. So for the local area network, call it as the LAN, and for the metropolitan area network, call it as the MAN. And third kind, wide area network, it is also called as WAN. Okay, so if it is confined within an office or an institute or it's a campus extending few meters, call it as the LAN. If it is geographically completely distributed, call it as the WAN. If it is confined to a city limits, call it as the MAN. See, let us try to understand what is the speciality with this operating system when you're working with a network. See, the operating system, the operating system which supports a network, the operating system which supports a network is called a network operating system. An operating system which supports a network is called a network operating system. And this operating system is going to provide certain features like file sharing across the network, and also includes a communication scheme. So this network operating system is not a traditional operating system, rather it is providing special features like file sharing across the network. So you have different systems, and this network operating system is going to help you to share the files across the network, and also includes a communication scheme in such a way that different computers can exchange messages. So the process at different systems can interact. Different jobs at different computers within the network can interact through the form of messages. So this is the definition for the network operating system. So what is the specialty in it? Yeah, network operating system is a kind of operating system which supports the network. That means it can provide certain features like file sharing, and message passing between the different processes working at different systems. So friends, these are the things we need to know about the distributed systems. So what do you mean by distributed system? If you have an operating system which supports the network, then call it as the network operating system. And if you have a network in which all the computers or all the systems which are interconnected, and even though they are located physically far, but they are interconnected, accessing some shared data, then you call it as the distributed system. And in this distributed system, we have learned about certain definitions like a network, a kind of networks like LAN, MAN and WAN. And also we understood that there is a special operating system called the network operating system, which can do the file sharing, the communication, and the message passing or message switching or message exchanging, etc. So let's move on to know about this special purpose systems. Let us try to observe some of the electronic systems in our home. If you try to switch on use AC, that means the air conditioning unit. So that means you are switching on with your remote and the AC is getting powered on, AC is working, okay, and when you when you finish, you can switch it off. That means you saying something to the AC or the air conditioning unit, and air conditioning unit is is responsive for your request and it is doing some job. So that means air conditioning unit is having a CPU, correct or not? Right. At the same time, air conditioning unit is trying to understand what you're saying, right? That means air conditioning unit is also having an operating system, because without operating system, any system cannot be responded to the user, right? So now the same case with the microwave oven also. So if you say that to cook particular item, so microwave oven will do that. If you say stop, it will stop. So that means even microwave oven is also having an operating system. At the same time, it is also having a CPU. But what is the difference between the traditional operating system which is running in our computer and the operating system which is running in the air conditioning unit or the microwave oven? Friends, this is a special kind of operating system, and since it is doing very limited operations, since this operating system is doing very limited operations and it doesn't require huge amount of space, so what they try to do, they try to make this operating system into set of instructions, and these instructions are being embedded, EMBEDDED. These instructions are being embedded in a small chip, okay, and this chip will be associated with the air conditioning unit or will be associated with the microwave oven or any other electronic instrument or any other electronic appliances. So don't assume that every electronic device will have the same kind of operating system. So the operating system will be differing according to the application or according to its purpose. If you're working with an air conditioning unit, of course it is having an operating system. So don't be confused. It is having operating system, but its functionality is limited when compared to a traditional operating system. So such kind of operating systems or such kind of systems are called the real-time systems, or such kind of systems are called real-time embedded systems, where here the operating system is not taking a major role or operating system is not taking a big job, rather it is having some predefined set of functionalities, and these operating systems are not explicitly called for or not explicitly been made, used, accessed, rather they are being embedded or they are being associated with the hardware chip. So that's why we have to call them as the real-time embedded systems. And friends, some of our students or some of our friends, they used to work more with the videos and audios and image files. They try to work with some kind of software, something like we call them as the multimedia. So that means multimedia systems which tries to overlap with the videos, joining the audio with the video, and they work with the frame rate, the pixel rate. They might be working with MP3, MP4, DVD kind, the video conferencing. They might be working with the video clips. So such kind of system is called the multimedia system, and such systems will have a different kind of operating systems. Of course, such kind of systems will also be working with the traditional operating system, but the traditional operating system can be little bit more extended, because these systems, they work more with the graphics kind, and these systems will be more working with the kind of the certain streaming issues, like the frames per second might be 30 frames per second or 100 frames per second, like that. So such kind of systems are mainly supported to work with the gaming kind or the multimedia kind. So these type of systems are called the multimedia systems, in which we work with the MP3, MP4, DVD, you can work with the video, short video clips, FLV, etc. So moving on to the third kind, that is the handheld system. So what do you mean by handheld system? See friends, the systems which we are working in our hands is called the handheld system. That means the mobile phone or the tablet we are using, it is the best example for the handheld system. So can you say what is the operating system it is having? Yes, it is having the operating system called Android. Okay, and for example, if the computer has been manufactured with the Apple system, then it is having a specialized operating system called the iOS. Apple iOS. So iOS is a commercial operating system, whereas the Android is the open source operating system. So that means even the handheld systems, they have their own operating system like Android, and again in the Android we have different kinds of versions. Accordingly to their generations, these versions will work. So what's the speciality of these handheld systems? We all know the speciality of handheld systems is the screen or the monitor is very small, I mean maximum it is 5 to 7 inches. At the same time, these systems can work with the wireless Bluetooth, and these systems can work with the wireless LAN or wireless local area network, and they have very other features like the camera, and they have even those, they are confined with very small in size, but they can do huge computations, etc. So the operating systems associated with the handheld systems, the operating system associated with the handheld system has a different kind of role. So friends, in the special purpose systems, we try to learn about 3 subkinds. The first one is the real-time embedded systems. That means, for example, what is the best example we have seen? We have seen the air conditioned unit, microwave oven, where you can also find the operating system, but the functionality of the operating system is very limited because it has been embedded as an instructions in the hardware chips. And the second subkind we have seen in the special purpose is the multimedia system, where users at the most work with the photos, videos and audios. Okay, and the third subkind we have seen is the handheld system. The best example is the mobile phone or the smartphone, which is being associated with our hands, and it is having a different kind of operating system like the Android operating system or the Apple iOS operating system, and it has its own special functionality, and it has its own special functionality extended with respect to the Bluetooth, extended with respect to the wireless LAN, and it has its own the CPU. At the same time, it has its own the RAM and the cache memory. So moving on from this special purpose operating systems, next let us try to understand the computing environments. I mean, what are the various computing environments which are available, so that we can be acquainted much more about the operating system. So in the computing environments, the first environment is the traditional computing. So traditional computing means where you work with a computer, where you work with a laptop. So this is the traditional kind, where you work with a word processor, or you're working with developing a simple program, or you can work with a spreadsheet, or you can work with a Microsoft presentation, etc. This is a simple kind of computing environment. So normally we call it as the traditional computing. If you have your computer running with a simple network, then it is not a standalone computer. Then you have to call it as a computer working with a client server environment. See, any system which is working within a network, and if you find any special system which is acting as a server, or which is taking the supervisory power, and remaining all the systems are trying to take the services from the server, then call it as the client server computing. The best example is that the file system. For example, you have different kinds of files located at different locations, and I say that there are different systems which are accessing those files, and I assume that there is a special kind of system which is trying to monitor all these files, and it is taking requests from all the clients, or it is taking requests from all the remaining computers or remaining systems, and it is giving back the data to all the systems. So such kind of environment is called the client server architecture or client server environment. Here in this environment you have a network, at the same time you have a specialized system called the server, and server doesn't know how many number of clients are there. Server doesn't know which client is going to ask which request, but clients in turn know the server. At the same time, every client has its own request based upon its requirement. So whenever a client made a request to the server attends to that request, and it tries to give back the service in the form of the data, or in the form of a resource, or in the form of some computation. We have to remember these 3 points. So when you're working with the client server architecture, the client may put some request to the server, and the server may respond in response to the request through it can give back a data, or it can give back some resource, or it can give back some computation also. Probably the server is having some extra CPU, and the client is asking for the remote accessing. So the server can take the job of this client, and it can make it run at the server side, and it can give back the result to the client. So this is the second kind of the environment, that is called the client server environment or client server architecture. The first architecture is the traditional architecture, where there is no network. The system is working standalone manner. In the second architecture, you have seen that is the client server, where you have different clients and where you have a few servers which are serving to the clients. And the third kind of environment is called the peer-to-peer computing. Peer-to-peer computing. So let's try to recall our loosely coupled system or the distributed system. In the distributed system, there is no special system that is called a server system, in which every system has equal power and every system has its own resources. Still, these systems are interconnected through the network, and all the systems, they are working in a shareable resources, or they are working with the shared data. So such kind of environment is called the peer-to-peer computing, or we can also say it as a distributed system, or we can also say it as the loosely coupled system. Even though the names differ, but the concept remains same. The last kind in this computing environment is the web-based computing. See, up to now what we have seen a traditional environment, the client server environment, and the third one is the peer-to-peer environment, or you can also call it as the distributed environment or the loosely coupled system. And the last kind is the web-based computing. So in the web-based computing, you try to include certain new things like the wide networks or the wireless access. So that means in this environment, you can see different devices which are working in the network, both in the form of wireless, and at the same time, basically these kind of systems, they work with the World Wide Web. So they work with the networking, they work with the World Wide Web. That means they work with the internet. So that means they have the faster network connectivity, so provided by the networking technology, or they have the optimized network implementation code either. So these systems, they have a specialized algorithms called the load balancing, in which it tries to share the load, or it tries to balance the load, depends upon the request. So this is the fourth kind that is working with the World Wide Web, that is called the web environment or web computing environment. So in the environment, what we have seen, the first one is the traditional systems, where it is also called as the standalone systems, and the second one is the client server architecture, and third one is the peer-to-peer. So that means in this architecture we have distributed environment, and the last one is web environment, means we are working with the networking, some kind of wired or wireless. So what is the specialized in this? We have the network implementation special technology or the network implementation optimization also. At the same time, we can also see about the load balances within the this kind of network or this is kind of environment. Friends, for every commercial system there is an equal open system. You can make a point of this statement what I am saying. For every commercial system you can have an equal performed or equal functionality associated open system. So what do you mean by open system? Open system means it is a system which is freely available and which can be accessed by anyone, and it is not a commercial one. So let us try to understand about this open source operating systems. See, it's very important to recall the efforts of Ken Thompson. So Ken Thompson is one of the greatest scientists in computer science domain. He has developed the Unix operating system. And Unix operating system, my dear friends, it is not a commercial operating system, rather it is an open source operating system. And the great Ken Thompson has given the source code for the Unix operating system, and he has kept that source code over the internet. Many software companies, they have copied that source code and they have modified, they try to understand what exactly the operating system is working, and they can easily modify that source code. And these software companies, they molded these source codes into their own operating systems, and they have name coined for different kinds, like the BSD Unix, or you can have different names for different Unix versions or different flavors. Okay, and after that, this Unix operating system has been refined much more to make it graphical user interface, called it as Linux. So Linux is an extension for the Unix, okay, and Linux is much more of graphical user interface, whereas Unix is command user interface or command prompt based. So mostly in the Unix you need to provide the input in the form of commands, where the Linux is an operating system which is competing the Microsoft Windows and Apple iOS operating systems, and it is a parallel system. It is a parallel operating system which is working with the same functionality. Probably it is having much more functionality, and it is something like having this graphics user interface. Again in the Linux, again in the Linux, it has many flavors like the Fedora, like Ubuntu, the SUSE Linux, the Red Hat Linux, this community enterprise operating system. You have different flavors. Even the Linux has been much more extended to made compatible with the mobile phones or the smartphones, even for the computers also. That software or that operating system is called the Android operating system. So Android is an extension of the Linux operating system. So this is the basic story behind the open source operating systems. So the basic operating system, the very source is the Unix operating system developed by Sir Ken Thompson. After that, the Linux operating system has been evolved. After that, the Android operating system, which is right now we are using in our phone, has been evolved. So this is the background story for the open source operating systems. See, the basic advantage of these open source operating systems is that, see, many users or many software companies cannot afford commercial softwares or commercial systems or commercial operating systems. So they always look for the second kind. And these second kinds, like these open source operating systems or open source softwares, always helps many users, several users, to reduce their cost in development. And you can get a question, how these open source systems have been funded. See, several users who are taking the help of these systems can give back a minimal amount of funding to these systems or to the developers who are associated with the systems, and such that they can keep on increasing the functionality for those systems. So the revenue can be generated through various support contracts or the sale of hardware on which the software runs, right? So that's all, friends. In the today's session we have understood about various environments or various computing environments or various operating system environments. At the same time, we try to understand about various systems like the distributed systems or the loosely coupled system, and we have seen the multimedia systems, or we have seen the peer-to-peer communication, and we have seen the operating system which is working in our smartphones, or we have seen the operating system which is particularly meant for the multimedia, the operating system which is meant for the network, operating system which is working in our traditional systems. So that's all, friends. Let's get back. We'll move back in the next session. Bye.